Hello, welcome to another episode of Hope Without Sight. This is episode 7 with your host, Sailor Cooper and
Tyler Evans.
Hello, Tyler. On this episode, we have Dan Parker, who is a blind race car driver who used to be sighted and used to drive race cars, and due to a terrible accident that led him to go blind. But of course, this did not stop him to continue to pursue his dreams. Even though after he went blind, he adjusted and still continued to race. And 10 years later, after the accident exactly, he achieved a Guinness World Record of driving an average speed of 211 miles an hour blind. Please welcome Dan Parker. Dan, how are you doing this morning? Thanks for being on the show.
I'm doing great. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So I want to start off. Obviously, you're an icon. You've received so much media attention because of your incredible achievements. So I want you to start off. So yeah, you're a race car driver. You've been driving race cars throughout your life. And of course, one accident changed your life forever, which, in the end, so much good came out of it, because today, despite the changes, you're still living your life the way you should. You're still driving today. How does it feel? How has it felt, you being on this journey and getting to where you are today?
It's been amazing. It's been like anything, big task. It's full of highs and lows. But, I grew up in a racing family. I was 8 years old the first time I raced my mini bike at the local drag strip. And out of high school, I started bracket racing on a regular basis, then ended up driving what's called pro modified cars. So they're the fastest cars on the planet that still have a working door, not compared to like the funny cars or the dragsters. So a pro modified car is 0 to 75 in 1 second. 0 to when I had it was 190 in 4 seconds, and about 2,500 horsepower. And March 31st, 2012 was a day that was like any other day. We were testing new motor combination. On the first full pass, the car made a hard right turn into the wall and tore part of the wall down, went tumbling through the grass, and it broke apart. The motor ended up over 100 feet away from where the car stopped. And, they tried a life flight now. They couldn't. A storm was in between the University of Alabama Hospital and the wreck, and put me in an ambulance for the 45-minute ride, and admitted me. And I had broke ribs, collapsed lung. My whole right arm was completely destroyed. So they induced me into a coma to try to stabilize me. And it took several weeks to add some infections and had to reconstruct the right elbow. Long story short, I woke up, they brought me out of the coma on the 14th day to my new world of total darkness. I'm 100% blacked out, blind from the traumatic brain injury. My brain swelled, compressed my optic nerve, and killed it. And so, I learned the next day that I was blind for life. So it's been a journey. Like I said, anything great has highs and lows, whether you're trying to build a house or build a race car, And so I built my motorcycle. In 13, I became the first blind man to race Bonneville. 14, I returned and set my FIM class record with no exemptions for blindness. I'm the only blind land speed racer in the world that's ever raced with no human assistance. A friend of mine at Boeing Phantom Works built me a guidance system that gives me audible feedback, so I know how to correct my steering and stay on course. And then I graduated the Louisiana Center for the Blind on March 31st of 15, 3 years to the date of the wreck. And then immediately I knew there was one more big goal I wanted for the title for the world's fastest blind man.
Wow. And you achieved it, because I know 10 years to the exact date after the accident, you accomplished your goal. You drove 211 miles an hour, and as I understand it, you had a custom Corvette built just for you, and you achieved your goal, and I'm very.
Oh, your phone cut out. Yes, so the Corvette, I designed it and we built it here at my house. Are we good?
We're good. Yes.
Okay. So I designed it. We built it here at my house. Financially, we didn't have the money to do this. Me and my fiance. So it was 4 years of struggling, of trying to raise money, sponsors, the people donate their time to build the car. And it was a battle, but like I said, it was a long process. So in the fall of 19, I was approached by the producers of Jay Leno's Garage. They heard about my story and they wanted me to come on, and the last they could film for that season was February of 2020. So once I had a securement from them that they were going to bring film an episode, I could go and approach and try to get some sponsors, and I did. And on that, the pass on Jay Leno's Garage was my first ever full pass, and I went 153.8 miles per hour. And on the way home, we were starting to hear the news of COVID, and just a few weeks later, basically everything was shut down.
That's right.
And so, like all of us, we were just hermits, and I was working in the shop on my pens and stuff, but I didn't know what the future held for the Corvette. And luckily, in the end of 2020, President Riccobono of the NFB reached out to me and wanted to help support me and with Cruz Thomas to try to break the record in 2021 for the 10-year anniversary of the Blind Driver Challenge, where President Riccobono, in the NFB, they built a car that gives feedback so a blind person could drive it, and he drove it in 2011 at the Daytona Motor Speedway. Not fast. I think he went about 30 miles an hour. He proved the concept that we could do it. And so we were going to try to do it in the fall of 21, and then the Delta, variant ramped up, and we had to postpone it.
Right.
And so originally we weren't going to try to, we didn't have any intention on trying to do it to the 10-year date of my wreck, but so we knew we had to roll it back to the spring of 2022. We studied the weather patterns for Spaceport, New Mexico. January, February is basically out of the question because of snow and cold. And the Spaceport told us that we could only rent it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and because we were there for 3 days. And just by chance, the last day fell on March 31st, exactly 10 years to the date. And we struggled all day Tuesday and Wednesday with 50 miles per hour side winds on Tuesday and 40 on Wednesday. And so it didn't allow me to get into the race car and make any really good full passes, because typically in land speed racing, they shut down racing at roughly between 15 to 17 mile an hour winds, depending on the direction. And I was out in the practice Corvette making 110, 115 miles per hour passes with a 50 mile per hour side wind, and I could maintain a 10-foot wide path for over a mile. But on the last day, we had a lot of struggles, and we overcame, and we were running out of time. So I think at roughly 3:30 was my first pass of for the Guinness record, I went 2:10. And for the Guinness record, you have to make 2 passes within 1 hour, opposite directions. So if the wind helps you one way, it'll hurt you the other way, and it averages out. So my return run was 2:12. So the official Guinness record is 2:11.043 miles per hour.
And because of your hard work and dedication, you achieved this. And I guess even though you wanted to do it in 2011, 10 years after Mark Riccobono drove, it worked out for the best. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, it wasn't intentional for you to do it on the 10th anniversary, but it worked out because 10 years prior, tragedy struck. 10 years later, triumph.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because people have seen the wreck. No one should have lived through what I lived through. There was nothing forward of my feet. There was no engine or transmission or the dash bar or the steering column or anything when I came to a wreck. And there's a picture on a SIM card. We're going to try to retrieve. The SIM card got cracked, but my face is so swollen in the hospital they couldn't even see where I had eyes. It was just black and blue, and
Wow.
It just shows the extreme of the trauma that my head went through. We hear of fighter pilots, 7, 8, 9 G's of maneuvers. After about 9 G's, they start blacking out. But in auto racing, there have been people who have wrecks not as severe as mine, and their data acquisition shows over 50 G's of force to the body. My car, the battery was at the very front of the car. So as soon as it hit the wall, it shut off the power. So our data acquisition system didn't get any of the wreck, but it would not be uncommon for, like I said, I think 50 G's would be a conservative estimate of how much trauma my body went through.
And so what you're saying is other people who've had accidents less severe, they couldn't have even survived it. And the fact that you survived and you're still here is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute miracle because my car owner, the guy that owned the car, Bill George, we always went above and beyond for safety. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have survived. We had these head pieces beside my helmet to soften the impact. If your head's bouncing around, and I had what's called a poured seat. So the seat, the liquid, you sit in your racing position and they pour this liquid down around your body and it forms to your body. And so it is trying to do everything it could to, support it. And if it weren't for just above and beyond steps that we as a team took, there's no way I would have lived.
Wow.
I know the crew, when they first came on the scene, they just thought for sure I was dead. There's no way that.
And wow. And so, like, how long were you in the hospital? Like, how many surgeries did you have to survive?
So I was in the hospital a total of a month. The first 2 weeks, I was in an induced coma. They had to rebuild this right arm. I have a titanium rod between my shoulder and my elbow. I still have 3 plates and 14 screws in my elbow. I have 1 titanium rod in my thumb. I had 1 in my wrist. All the nerves are messed up in my right arm, and the muscles, the arm was stuck straight for 6 months on purpose to allow the bone to heal around the elbow. Then they had to go back, open it up, and reshape the elbow just to allow it to bend. I had to do months and months of elbow therapy, hand therapy, back therapy. It was a long process. But I was UAB for a total of a month the first time.
And yeah, in doing this, of course, you had a girlfriend at the time who's now your wife. I listened to videos where you told your girlfriend, leave. I'm too much of a burden for you. I'm done. I can't, I don't want you to have to live with me. You told her to go. And she said no. I mean, she stood by your side. And I saw that you were on Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey, he's a
Oh
classic.
yeah, I
And
love them.
of course, I don't have this device. I have something, it's a newer product. I have the Envision glasses. I'm sure you're familiar with those.
Yep.
But you proposed to your girlfriend on the Steve Harvey show with the Orcam. How cool was that?
Oh yeah.
He was cool. And Steve, he's just a great person in person. He's just a fool, acting up off camera as he is on camera. And he was really cool. And it was a great opportunity to represent the Orcam. And when they first came to me and asked me, would I be interested in going on the show? I said, yeah. I said, but I think I got something that had a little spice to it, because I've been thinking about proposing to Jennifer, and she had no idea.
She said yes.
I mean, yeah, the part of the thing they had to cut out, as soon as I got down on my knees, she goes, yes, yes, yes. And I said, ding dong, I gotta ask the question first.
Yeah.
And but it was good. So she had to come home and keep it quiet for 2 weeks. She didn't tell her mama, her sisters. We told absolutely no one. She didn't wear her engagement ring for 2 weeks, nothing, until the day the show came out. Everybody found out the same way. It was cool. And yes, like I said, I was in the hospital when they first brought me out of the coma. And I found out I was blind. Jennifer had just been living with me about 3 months, and she'd moved down from Birmingham. I told her, I said, just go to my house, get whatever you want, move back to Birmingham and forget about me. I said, my exact words were hers: I ruined my life. Don't ruin yours by trying to do the right thing by me. And luckily she's hard-headed and she stuck with me. And so it's just me and her and the 2 dogs and a cat. And, like anybody else, we have highs and lows, and she's been there with me through all of them, and supportive of my racing, my motorcycle. And, she comes from a little bit of racing background. She worked for a Pro Stock motorcycle team, so she knows the risk. And, but she also knew that I had a heavy battle of depression. And if this would give me a purpose, that it would, help me survive. And that's exactly what it did. The motorcycle gave me a purpose. And I think all of us need that. We all have a passion.
We do.
And within us, and we have if we have a purpose with passion and perseverance, anything is possible. And that's so important to us. That's, especially this, quote unquote disabled, some of our struggles are a lot worse than others. But, like I said, a passion, and a purpose gets out of the bed every day, gets our mind thinking, gets us, on the internet, gets us socializing, gets us networking. That's strong. That's some of the best medicine.
It sure is. It sure is. And when did you propose on Steve Harvey? What year was that?
19. Yep. 19.
Before COVID.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. It was February of 19. Yep.
And by the way, if you still have contact with Steve Harvey, please tell him about us, because we would love to have him as a guest on our show, because I know he's overcome challenges himself, and he's
Absolutely.
cool. So
I love him.
Please send them my way.
Yeah,
he's on Family Feud.
Yeah, I don't have any way to contact him because they shut down the Steve Harvey show, and so the lady, the producer that I had to contact, no, the email doesn't work anymore, and so they're no longer there. So I really don't have any way to contact them, because I've tried to share with them the story of the Corvette as it progressed, and just couldn't find a way to get to them. People like that have handlers, so they, I call them gatekeepers, because they block what they want to block, let through what they want to get through, and it's tough.
It is, yeah.
There's another person I think we should interview. He went through a lot. He's a talk show host, Mark Levin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Well, he was an attorney for Ed Meese. He worked in the Reagan administration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I knew who he is, but I didn't know what kind of challenges he's been through.
And he's had a heart attack a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
times. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think we should interview him. And
Yeah.
he's still on the air. So
But of course, back to you. But to be clear, you drive a motorcycle independently with auditory and haptic feedback, right?
Yes, all auditory, because the haptic feedback won't work because my right hand, all the nerves are crossed up. When I squeeze my thumb, my index finger stings and feels like it's expanding. And so my motorcycle I designed is a 3-wheel motorcycle. When I went to the racing organization, they told me they wouldn't even consider letting me race unless I made it a 3-wheeler to take balance out of the equation. I said, okay, if you're a football field, we're going to play by your rules. And it's a 70cc, so it's nothing super fast. My official record at Bonneville is 62.05 miles per hour. Yeah.
So you just drive on the racetrack, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, both the Corvette and the motorcycle is for straight line racing only.
No
It
turns.
doesn't have no turns, no obstacle avoidance. But yes, just trying to go as fast as possible.
Because that's why we still can't drive today, which hopefully we can eventually. And technology's here. It just needs to be approved,
We will. My next project that I want to get involved with will be a semi-autonomous bicycle. So it'll be again a 3-wheel bicycle, or maybe even 4 wheels. They have what's called a velomobile. They're very popular in Europe. So imagine a 3-wheel vehicle that actually has a little shell around it, and little doors, and you get in. So because over in Europe, there's so much rain and all, so you're out of the elements. You pedal. Well, the computer would do calculate your path and provide the navigation, the obstacle avoidance, and the steering, and you provide the pedaling. And so it's a whole lot easier to try to have the algorithms and the sensors and everything it does to maintain a 5 to 10 miles per hour pace than a 75 miles per hour pace. The difficulties. So that's one of the next projects that Patrick and I, the engineer that built the guide system, are very committed to try to work on in the next few years, because I think that's going to be, for the blind, that's going to be our next realistic step for transportation. Companies like Cruise are doing great things for the autonomous world, and they're growing, but right now they're basically based in San Francisco, and as the government has to allow the steps for them to be legal in the streets and to come further out into the country, imagine if you had a velomobile with a computer on it that programmed a 2-mile radius of your house. So just think, I don't know where you live or anything about your neighborhood, but just think, even if you just program a path for exercise in your neighborhood, that you could just make like my neighborhood here, I could program a loop around my, a few blocks here in my neighborhood and get 1 mile path. So, if I did that 4, 5, 10 times a day, the exercise would be just great. I'm getting out fresh air. But then I have a Chick-fil-A less than 2 miles away. I have a Walmart neighborhood center a few miles away. So if we had those options, the freedom for us is, just enormous, and so that's my goal.
Wow. You're going to change the world, and you're going to make lives easier for us, because by the way, I tried to meet you at the convention in New Orleans. I attempted to go see your Corvette right after general session got out, but it wasn't there.
Corvette wasn't there. It wasn't. Yeah, we were trying to take it there, and New Orleans, downtown area is so congested, narrow streets. My trailer that I had was 40 feet long, so the rig was about 60 feet long. Just to get that size truck and trailer to the hotel required us having a police escort. There was nowhere to park it at the hotel. So it was just, so our goal is to take it to Houston this next year for the national convention, because then we can take it and display it and everything. And so that's our goal.
It's awesome because actually I live in Houston, just outside Houston, and we're hosting a convention next year. So yeah, definitely, I hope to see you there. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be wonderful. And also, I'm sure, of course, you heard Michelle. I'm trying to think what her last name is. I have it in my contacts, but Michelle from Waymo in San Francisco, she spoke about autonomous vehicles, how those vehicles are going to basically be almost like an Uber, as to where you don't necessarily buy the vehicle, but instead you request it on the Waymo app and order it, and it comes to you. And it drives itself. It's there, I believe, in Phoenix and San Francisco, right?
Correct. I think so. I think you're really close. Yes.
Yeah. And so hopefully we get to see those as well. And because I mean, you see, I only live out in the Woodlands, which is north of Houston. The only reason I live here is because there's Uber and Lyft. Because there's no city bus or paratransit. The Metro Houston doesn't go all the way out here because, of course, we're not in city limits. But if it wasn't for Uber, I wouldn't be able to live in this area. But with new developments in regard to autonomous vehicles, it's going to make life even better for us.
It is, and it's coming. I think the pace is definitely slower than what we want, because, but that's life, that's reality. But, how old are you, Sailor?
I'm 29, and Tyler,
right, well,
yeah, I'm 31.
I'm old enough to be both of y'all's father. So, in my lifetime, what will be happening will be far less than what will be in y'all's lifetime, and so that's, in 30 years, as we know, transportation today will be totally different, than, how it is today, but yet the opportunities. And like I said, I think me and President Ricky Bono and Patrick have been talking about this bicycle project for years, because in my mind, I think that's a realistic way for a blind person to have independent transportation. Obviously, the Uber, Lyft, the Waymos, the cruises are great, but to truly, own your vehicle anytime you want, and like I said, exercise is so much of it. Me, I don't exercise near enough what I should, and that opens up the possibilities so much more.
Exactly. Yes. Because you're right. Transportation is only forever evolving. And I mean, I'm sure, there were airplanes, and cars, in your younger years, of course. But, even before planes, before that, we didn't have any of that. Heck, I mean, people commuted on horseback, on wagons, and it took days to get to their destination. And look at what we have now. It's only gonna evolve. And gosh, who knows? There may be a blind pilot that may fly a plane. You never know.
You never know.
So it's wonderful, great. So just to clarify, so the Corvette that you drove on March 31st, you did have a sighted passenger in the vehicle with you, just in case, right?
That's right. So when I designed the car up front, I designed it to have two steering wheels. So while I was testing, if we, because I'm testing technologies that's never been done before. And so we didn't have the money, or I didn't have the money to go to an engineering firm and say, this is what I want. And once it's all 100% sorted out, bring me the car, and I'm going to jump in and drive it. I'm the one at the local drag strip testing, and the dangers are real. So I had it designed so a passenger could be with me. Well, insurance required, that's one of the only ways we got this signed off to do what we did, is to have a passenger in the car that, like I said, the steering wheel. Well, the Guinness officials, we went to them, and that's normally not the protocol. They said, wait, to do this, we'll allow the passenger because it's not helping you. If anything, it's hurting me because that's an extra 200 pounds I'm toting. But we had to provide GoPro footage that the passenger did not have his hands on the steering wheel. He didn't do anything to help me. He doesn't have any other controls on his side of the car. And he was there for just sole purposes of an emergency situation. And so as soon as I brought the car to the stop on the second pass, Jason, my co-pilot, was getting out. We're celebrating. I ain't even got out of the car yet. Boy, Jason didn't even get to celebrate with us on top end because the Guinness official pulled up in the car, and he had to basically witness Jason taking the SIM cards out of the GoPro, hand them to the Guinness official. They had to drive them straight to the trailer, put them in the laptop, and go over them, review them to make sure he didn't help me. And that's the only way that we got the records certified on the spot, was because he was able to do that. And in today's lawsuit world, that's just part of it. I wanted there for safety. I've been through enough with racing accidents, so I didn't care to have any more trips to the hospital. But on the same token, I like to do it independently, and one day I will. But that's again, it's their football field. We had to play by the rules, and this was a long process with me and the team at NFB putting all this together, and spaceport and all the legalities and the insurance, and this was months and months and months of blind people working together to coordinate this, to make this happen. And it all worked out at the end, at the last few hours, but it was a struggle. But
yeah, I'm sure you went through like hell, getting all the paperwork right. You argue with attorneys, insurance companies. They told you no, you can't do this, but despite this, you held your ground.
Well, the legal team NFB is one, Stacy Person and Anita Lewis and Stephanie Castoni. They were the main people working on the whole time. But there was a lot of back and forth, because originally in 2021, when we were going to attempt the record, Steve Struck from the East Coast Time Association was going to be my passenger. He was the passenger for the Jane Leno deal, and we were going to race under his insurance and sanction body. Well, August of 21, Steve got Delta, and he was in the hospital for, I think, 10 weeks, like 8 weeks on the vent. And he as a miracle survived. So during that time, we said, well, we got to regroup. We got to get a plan B. So we went to Tim Kelly from the Loring Time Association in Maine, and he came on board. Let's race under his sanction body, his insurance. Of course, luckily, Jason White, my co-pilot, raced at Loring and he's got the world's fastest C6 Corvette at 269 miles an hour. So he's a land speed racer, and Tim respects him, and he knew that Jason wasn't going to let me, do anything unsafe or anything unsafe with the car. So he trusts Jason. So that brought a lot of confidence to the team. And then Jason allowed us to race under his sanction body. So it was, and then the people at Spaceport were just great to work with. I can't thank Alice and man, my mind just went blank. Chris Lopez, director of operation, enough. It was so touching. At noon on the last day, I hadn't even cracked 200 miles an hour yet, and I knew, our lease was up at 5 o'clock. And I went to Alice and I said, Alice, I said, obviously we're struggling. I ain't got but 5 hours left of my contract. Do I have any options? And she told me, she said, I get emotional just thinking about it. She said, you just keep fighting and I'll worry about this. I said, okay. You know, and the next pass, I went 205. I felt a few things in the car that need to be adjusted. We brought back to the pits, jacked it up, made some adjustments on some calls for some shocks. That I made the decision. The next pass was 210 and the next pass was 212. History was made.
Okay. So it took you basically all day to accomplish.
Well, we had been there for 3 days. We rolled in on Monday. The team went over the car all Monday. Tuesday, we were fighting issues with the car, but I had the practice Corvette there. And so me and Patrick would go up with a practice car and practice 45 minutes at a time. The team was working on the car, but the winds and the sandstorms were just so bad that we couldn't get the race car. We didn't get the race car out on the track till Wednesday. So I made a half-mile pass. I think I went 158 to the half. The next pass was about a 3/4 mile pass. I went like 176 to the 3/4. I think I made a 1 mile pass, about 187. And we were still struggling with some issues with the car. And Jason, on last morning, I woke up about 1:30 in the morning. I knew, so a torque converter is a device between the motor transmission that allows the motor to idle. So it's slipping when you're idling, but you want it super tight so you can run as fast mile per hour as possible. Well, it's my fault, 100%. I spec'd it too tight. So when you drop it in gear, it was not allowing the car to idle. It was shutting the motor off. So we were fighting that the whole time. So I told myself the last morning that we need to build a push bar. So if I couldn't get it to leave, I would have another vehicle push me up to about 10 or 20 miles an hour. I'd drop it in gear and go. And I knew I have what's called a junk box in the trailer. I knew what I had in the junk box. So the team, we met at 5 o'clock, went straight to spaceport. As the sun was rising, the team was welding, and we built a push bar that I designed. And luckily, we didn't have to use it. And so I told the team, I'm sorry, my guys here cutting the grass, but I told the team, if we have to, push us with a practice car, and we'll get up speed. And they said, well, you're going to tear the front bumper up on that Corvette, the practice car. It's a 1994. Believe me, it's nothing special. I said, listen, if we have to sacrifice that front bumper for this Guinness World Record, that's just part of the game. We'll deal with that. They make another one. That wasn't the last front bumper for a 94 Corvette they made, but luckily we didn't have to use it, but we were prepared.
Wow. That's incredible. That's an amazing accomplishment of you achieving your goal. And also the car, is it electric or is it gas?
Oh no, it's gas. So it has a 440 cubic inch gas motor. The motor makes 800 horsepower before the nitrous oxide is activated, and has a 3-speed transmission. So it can make 1,000 horsepower if I need it to. And in the 1.5 miles, if I need it to, a little bit more practice, I could probably run between 225 and 230 in the Bonneville Salt Flats with a 5-mile course. I could run over 250 easily with it.
And it's just two doors, right?
Yeah, that's right. Corvette's 2-door sports car. Yep.
Wow. And so yeah, as I understand it, you are driving this car on your own. The passenger is only there for emergencies. He is not touching anything whatsoever.
Nothing. He's not touching nothing. He ain't doing anything. He's there, 200 feet before the finish line. The computer calls out parachute. I have what's called a paddle shifter, my left pinky. I pull the paddle shifter, and that deploys the parachute. Once I feel it blossom and tug, then I let off the gas and start applying the brakes to bring it to a stop. Yeah, he's not doing anything.
And it's all audible feedback.
It's all audible feedback. Yeah.
Wow.
So the computer calls out parachute. I pull the parachute, and then 200 or 300 feet later is the finish line. It calls out finish. Then I know that's when it's time to start bringing it to a stop.
I mean, in my mind, I don't know how you react so quickly if the car is just going so fast. It's just crazy. I mean,
Just to
wow.
give you perspective, at 200 miles an hour, you're going a football field per second.
Yep.
That's faster
Crazy.
than the average car on a highway. Way faster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's way faster, and it's just incredible. You can still do that. And of course, before you had the accident, were you like in the car yourself, or was there still a passenger there for
Oh no,
emergency?
I raced completely by myself. When I raced before, I was a semi-professional. I'm a world champion drag racer, and the car that I drove before made over 2,500 horsepower. And so I've been over 220 miles an hour in just a quarter of a mile in that car. And so, racing's all I've ever done. But no, passengers normally not allowed in pretty much any form of motorsports.
Yeah, and you're still doing it now. Do you hope to go to the F1, the Formula One, as a blind race car driver one day?
No, I know the realistic limitations of where technology is right now is straight line, top speed events, and that's fine. My next main purpose that I really want to concentrate my efforts on is I want to become an inspirational speaker, and I want to work on the bicycle project for the blind. That's two things. That's my next focus.
Yeah, motivational speaking is the way to go, because you've overcome so much, from tragedy to almost losing your life to triumph. And that's what other people need in this world. They need to rise up, knowing that despite their circumstances, it's not the end of the world. And of course, that leads me, to my pretty much last question. And of course, Tyler, if you have any questions, you can ask them. Other than your bicycle project and you becoming a motivational speaker, do you have any other future goals that you hope to accomplish after getting the Guinness World Record of driving?
Those are the two main things. And then of course I work out in my shop every day. I'm a machinist. My website is theblindmachinist.com, and I hand machine custom aluminum ink pens. And I presented one to the COO of Sam's Club. I spoke a few weeks ago. So that keeps me busy. And I have some adaptive technology in the shop that allows me to, be a machinist and very accurately machine parts. And, that's enough on my plate for right now. If I can, between the machine shop work, motivational speaking, the bicycle project, that's more than enough.
And even though you have damage to like your nerves and your hands, you can still be a machinist.
Oh yeah.
Obviously. I mean, how do you do that because your hands don't fully work, right?
They work. It's painful to make a fist, but the nerves are crossed up. When people see me work or, in daily activities, they don't realize how much damage this right arm has, but it is what it is. I have some adaptive equipment in the shop. I have a talk box, which is my calipers, that speaks out measurements, and some of the other adaptive techniques I've learned or developed, and it allows me to operate my machine shop equipment safely. And that's typically why I'm a lot of times out in the shop working on something out there.
Wow. And you live in Columbus, Georgia, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, near Fort Benning. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well, awesome. So well, of course, that's as you as a guest, I want to make sure, do you have anything else to share? Because if not, let's wrap up. And of course, Tyler, you have the floor if you have any questions for our guests as well. So first, Dan, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate the message you're trying to convey to people.
Absolutely.
Well, I need a little positivity. Anything you got, Tyler?
I just think the story is really inspiring. Really, it really is. Like, blind people can actually drive. And my sister-in-law, she's not really convinced, because it's like, how can you drive if you're blind? And what about technology malfunctioning and all this stuff, you know?
And that's, you know, people, you know, society, nothing, you know, against her, but people that's never been exposed to it,
No,
they just don't understand
right.
it. You know, and that's our job, is, you know, to help define blindness, not let the blindness define us. And that's what we're all doing every day,
Exactly.
you know, working hard to define blindness.
That's right, because blindness doesn't define you. It's the misconceptions that people have and the negative attitudes.
Yep, that's it.
And well, awesome. So at the end of every episode, I really ask my guests to just leave a message to our listeners. What advice do you have for anybody that's struggling with help out there? What's a message that you can leave?
On every one of my pens I sell, they come in my wooden boxes, or my bases, my Made American pens, with my life quote. I'll leave it with this: you can make excuses or make it happen.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Don't make no excuses. Make stuff happen, because you only got one life and live it to the full.
That's
right.
it. Okay.
Awesome.
Fellas, I appreciate it.
Well,
go ahead.
Dan, go ahead.
How did you, Sailor was telling me that you once were suicidal. How did you overcome that? Like, after your blindness, you didn't feel worth living. Like, you felt like, hey, life was not worth living.
Well, you know, I don't know if any of y'all watched the movie Field of Dreams, but I had a real life Field of Dreams moment. About 6 months after my wreck, I went to bed one night thinking about my brother who passed away in 2009, and my mother who passed away just 6 months before my wreck. And my brother always told me a story about 4 guys from France that built a 50cc motorcycle, and they designed it where they could take it apart, put it in their luggage. They did. They flew to the United States, rented a car, went to Bonneville, put it together, and they each got a record. And so that night, I went to bed thinking about them. I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning from the most vivid dream that I would build a motorcycle and be the first blind man to race Bonneville. I never went back to sleep that night. And when Jennifer woke up about 8 o'clock, I told her. She said, okay. So that dream gave me my purpose, and the purpose took away the suicidal thoughts, you know, and that's the reason I'm so passionate. We all need a purpose, you know, a goal, whether you want to be a writer, a painter, or run a triathlon, whatever it is. You know, we all don't have to drive race cars at 200 miles an hour. That whatever your passion is, turn it into your purpose, and it'll get you through life.
Yes, because where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
All right. Well, if nothing else, Dan, thanks so much for being on this podcast.
I appreciate it, y'all.
We hope you feel renewed, inspired, and encouraged, like you can just carry on and conquer the world.
Please hit the subscribe button on all platforms and tell your friends and family to do the same.
Blessings to all.